Hello, dear friends. Today I will tell you a shocking story about a Russian pensioner killer. On the surface, Sofia Zhukova seemed like an ordinary Russian pensioner. She lived in a small apartment in the provincial settlement of Beryozovka, near the city of Khabarovsk. Her neighbors nicknamed her Sonka Sipataya, meaning Sonia the Wheezy, because of her hoarse, rasping voice. No one could have imagined that this elderly woman would turn out to be the oldest serial killer in Russian history. Sofia was born in 1939 in a village in the Nizhny Novgorod region. She never received a formal education and spent most of her life working as a laborer. Her personal life was tragic. Several of her children died young. Eventually, she moved to Khabarovsk and found work at a meat processing plant. Neighbors often commented on her incredible strength, even in old age. During renovations, she could carry heavy cast-iron radiators out of her apartment all by herself. She married and had 2 sons, both of whom reportedly went on to work in law enforcement. Neighbors described Sofia as quarrelsome, aggressive, and indifferent to others. She hated animals, shouted at children in the yard, and had frequent conflicts. But after her husband's death in 2005, her temper worsened dramatically. She often threatened neighbors and even children with violence. People thought she was just a bitter, eccentric old woman. They were wrong. On December 14th, 2005, 12-year-old Nastya Alexenko was walking home from school with her friend. They parted ways at the entrance of their apartment building, and Nastya went inside. But she never made it home to her grandparents' apartment. P.M. Her worried grandfather raised the alarm. A phone call to Nastya's friend confirmed the last sighting. She had entered the building with Sofia Zhukova. The entire town of Beryozovka launched a search. Flyers with Nastya's photo were posted everywhere. Police and volunteers combed the streets, forests, and abandoned buildings. Zhukova was questioned. She admitted to seeing the girl and claimed that Nastya sometimes visited her. According to Sofia, on that day, the girl had supposedly heard someone call her name and ran outside. But Nastya's family knew she never visited Zhukova. That lie made them suspicious. Days later, one neighbor noticed what looked like pieces of raw meat scattered under Zhukova's windows. She assumed they were scraps for stray dogs. The patrol officers who came didn't connect it to the missing girl either. Later that month, a driver accidentally discovered a black plastic bag at a dump. Inside were human remains. Forensic testing confirmed the worst: it was Nastya. The murder horrified the region, but investigators lacked solid evidence. Zhukova remained free, living in the same building as Nastya's grieving family. In March 2013, 77-year-old Anastasia Mikiva, a distant relative of Zhukova, moved into her apartment temporarily. Mikiva had recently sold her own flat for 3 million rubles and was planning to relocate to Moscow, where her daughter lived. But shortly after moving in, Anastasia disappeared. Her family raised the alarm when she stopped answering calls. Investigators discovered that on March 9th, the postwoman had delivered both women's pensions. After that day, Mikiva was never seen again. Questioned by police, Zhukova claimed her relative had packed up her things and left for relatives in Primorye. She even added that she tried to stop her, allegedly struggling over a bag with documents. Sofia insisted she later saw her from the window, leaving in a black car. But her story fell apart. The apartment windows overlooked the yard, no car could enter there. And Mikiva had no relatives in Primorye. Blood traces were found on the walls and radiator in Zhukova's apartment. She brushed it off. She had high blood pressure. Her nose started bleeding. Neighbors testified that after the disappearance, Zhukova threw out Mikiva's furniture and clothing. They even saw her wearing the missing woman's things. Red stains were noticed near the dumpsters. Still, prosecutors lacked decisive proof. Zhukova was questioned as a witness and released. Once again, whispers about a cannibal granny spread through Beryozovka, but the law couldn't touch her. In January 2019, Zhukova took in 62-year-old janitor Vasily Shliaktich. Recently thrown out by his common-law wife for drinking, he rented a room from Sofia for 10,000 rubles a month. On January 28th, Vasily vanished. Days passed and he didn't show up for work. Concern grew. Neighbors remembered that the last place he had been seen was at Zhukova's. Residents in the downstairs apartment reported chilling noises that night, around 2 a.m. They heard dull, heavy thuds like someone swinging an axe, followed by groans. Then silence. Afterward came the sound of water splashing, as though someone was washing floors. In the morning, they saw Zhukova carrying a heavy bag to the dumpsters. That evening, more chopping sounds echoed from her flat. Days later, 2 schoolgirls found human remains near a heating pipeline. Forensics identified them as Vasily's. His former partner confirmed it was him. Police moved in to arrest Zhukova. Despite her age, she resisted fiercely, fighting off several officers. Neighbors recalled her notorious strength. She had once hauled cast-iron radiators on her own. Inside her flat, investigators found blood on the floor, walls, and furniture. In the kitchen lay an axe and saws, stained with blood. Zhukova denied everything. She claimed she barely knew Vasily. The noises? She said she couldn't sleep and was chopping bones for soup. The blood, she insisted, was from years ago, from Mikiva, who had gone to Primorye. But the evidence was overwhelming. In pretrial detention, Zhukova at first insisted she was innocent. But soon she opened up to her cellmates, boasting of her crimes. She described in chilling detail how she killed Vasily, how she murdered and dismembered Mikiva, and most horrifying of all, how she had killed 12-year-old Nastya in 2005, tossing her remains off the balcony in hopes that stray dogs would scatter them. The cellmates reported everything to investigators. Confronted again, Zhukova confirmed her confessions, recounting the murders step by step. Later, she tried to retract her statements, claiming they were forced, but it was too late. Forensic evidence tied her to the crimes. In court, she was brazen. She laughed, mocked witnesses, and cruelly insulted Nastya's grieving mother. Sometimes she covered her mouth to muffle her laughter. She showed no remorse whatsoever. Psychiatric experts declared her fully sane. Every act had been deliberate. But Sofia Zhukova never heard her sentence. In December 2020, she contracted COVID-19 and died in a Khabarovsk hospital at the age of 82. On January 19, 2021, the Khabarovsk Regional Court declared her guilty, posthumously, 3 murders, including that of a child. Media outlets around the world reported on the Russian granny maniac. She was labeled the oldest serial killer in Russian and Soviet history. For the residents of Beryozovka, the story remains a chilling memory. The quiet, seemingly harmless old woman who lived among them turned out to be a monster. Sanka Sipataya will forever stand as proof that true evil can hide behind the most ordinary doors.